Prime News with Reena Ganga.
Good evening. Also making news, Moree police warn against underage drinking. 2 charged over a crime run from Tamworth to Walker. And is the government doing enough to help farmers save water? But first, as another mining company seizes up coal deposits in the Gunnedah Basin, the local council is applying the brakes. Gunnedah Shire Council says new mines are welcome, but not at the community's expense. First, former Gwydir MP John Anderson has rubbished an Auditor-General's report that found the coalition used a regional grants program as a political slush fund. He used a tour of Tamworth's Equine Centre to divert attention towards the program's achievements. Tens of thousands of people turned out on the coast last night to welcome in the new year. Police recorded surprisingly low numbers of offenders during the celebration. The 2008 Beijing Olympic torch relay is drawing crowds for all the wrong reasons. But local Olympians say you'll never be able to keep politics out of sport. There's nothing like a bit of retail therapy to take your mind off the drought. Nearly 100,000 people have visited this rural supermarket over the past 3 days. And while numbers have been down, sales are still strong. The crowds are already beginning to converge on Peel Street, but this year you'll notice a difference. The visitors are getting younger and younger. If there's one surefire way to conjure up ticket sales, it's with a Harry Potter movie. This first session has been an absolute sellout, with many people ordering days in advance. It's just after 11 o'clock and already Dr. Coote and Dr. Gordon have dealt with an eye trauma and a stab wound, and they've got a waiting room full of patients. It's just another day at the office. Turning to cricket, and the Country Cup finals will be played on some of the best local wickets in years. A change in the weather has helped ground staff with their preparations after earlier concerns the Tamworth venues wouldn't be up to scratch. Josh Hazlewood has taken a giant step towards an international cricket career with a selection in the Under-19 World Cup team. The 16-year-old fast bowler is one of the youngest players in the squad to contest the World Cup in Malaysia in February. Hazlewood toured with the team earlier this year, but secured his place in the World Cup side after a strong performance for New South Wales at the recent National Championships. Fellow Tamworth player Blake Fitzgerald was also in the state side, but missed selection in the Australian team. And that is all from the Prime News team for now. We'll have updates later this evening. 7 News has the national stories next, and we're back Monday night at 6 with a full half hour of local news. Have a great weekend. Good night. Mick Bacon is sitting on a jackpot. Under his land, there's coal 14 metres deep. The government is now calling for a show of hands for anyone who wants to mine it.
It is a significant resource and we're just seeking expressions to see if companies are interested in assessing it.
Exploration in the nearby Karoona Basin has been met with staunch opposition. Breezer farmer John Bailey is against this coal mine too.
It'll ruin the country for a start and it'll be no good. No good for farming.
No good for farming, but a cash cow for mining giants. The Greens say coal companies are greedily gobbling farms and they're being helped.
Even though Karoona isn't resolved, they're confident behind the scenes, it appears, that they will get their way, and therefore government, coal industry, hand in hand, are just pushing into new areas.
But back to Mick Bacon. He's watched crop after crop fail. Even the cattle are having a hard time getting much feed off it. Coal exploration could be the chance to reverse his fortunes.
Definitely will help the small farmer, the farmer that wants to get a little larger and get out into a much bigger farm. And it's going to bring a lot of work into this area.
Don't get him wrong, he's dead against mining the Karoona Basin, but he says the Watermark area is a different story.
Oh, it's like chalk and cheese. It's my place is really second, third class compared to what the black soil is.
This is where most of the coal on Mr. Bacon's property is. Looking around, you can see it's not much use for farming. Nonetheless, Mr Bailey and many more have ties to their land deeper than any coal. They won't give it up without a fight.
Oh, well, we give it a go. Make it as hard as we can for them.
In Breeza, Reena Ganga, Prime News. These elderly ladies are being evicted. They've done nothing wrong, but they're among 400 people in village life retirement centres being kicked out.
It was absolutely soul-shattering.
That's absolutely devastating to us.
They're confused, upset and in the dark. The first these women heard of their eviction was on the news.
We didn't know anything. We were in absolute ignorance until it came over the radio this morning.
Village Life has terminated its lease on the property. They thought the only people who'd be affected were management and some staff. But the owners, MFS, say everyone has to be out by the 28th of May.
It's not that I want the building vacated. It legally has to be provided vacated if there's not another operator. Because I legally cannot step in and run an operating retirement village.
Residents don't know where they'll go.
I haven't got a clue. You know, I've been asked that question. I think, no, I can't move. This is home.
For others, it's not even an option.
See, I've had a foreable bypass and they said I couldn't live on my own without a carer. How could I possibly afford a carer?
Village Life says it's up to the owners to find somebody else to run the centre.
We're also in negotiations with MFS about the possibility of extending our lease to provide more time to come up with a long-term solution.
MFS says legally it's not their responsibility to find a solution, but they're trying nonetheless. This is a copy of the lease that residents have signed. It says here they're not covered under the Retirement Villages Act. That means all of this is simply normal rental accommodation. MP Tony Windsor says despite that, the residents do have rights. He's urging them to seek legal advice.
And I know Peter Draper and myself will be doing what we can in terms of the departmental advice that we can receive.
In Tamworth, Reena Ganga, Prime News. If the great Australian dream is owning a home, then the great Australian retirement dream is owning a motorhome.
The caravan lifestyle's really taken off in the last, well, I reckon about 10 years.
Michael Hatton and his wife Narelle are about to join thousands of other grey nomads on the road. 5 years in your caravan?
Plus.
Longer if we still like it.
And if the budget will stretch. Soaring petrol prices are a roadblock for some retirees, including Diane and Doug Campbell. They've been recording their fuel expenses for nearly 2 decades.
The expense has gone up terrifically running a car and running them what it was when we first started off in 91.
The couple spent 6 years on the road and have travelled around Australia twice. That's simply out of the question now.
We just cannot afford it. We just do small trips now and we couldn't live on the road like we did before.
As the cost of petrol goes up, travellers are having to find other ways of keeping their costs down. And that means increasingly avoiding places like this one.
Very seldom we go into caravan parks. We try and stay in the rest areas.
Uralla Caravan Park has noticed the trend.
Just at the moment, we're down a lot.
But he's not worried. He says determined travellers always find a way, even if that means self-catering or staying in to save a few dollars.
Your serious travellers they'll work another way around it. They might slow down a bit, but they'll still travel.
And that's exactly what the Hattons intend to do.
Just keep an eye on what we do spend and what we don't spend.
In Uralla, Reena Ganga, Prime News.